What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinemaholic Productions, where we talk all things movies, TV. Sometimes I talk about a video game or two. My name is Spencer Henderson, and I am a cinemaholic.
My name is Ryan Gordon, and I as well am a cinemaholic. And today you've clicked on it. The video says Baby Driver. This is one that was personally on my most anticipated of the year, solely because Edgar Wright. He is the director and writer of several classics such as Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. What's your favorite one?
Probably Hot Fuzz, but
Really?
I do also love Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Perfect. He is a very stylistic director. He started Ant-Man, but then tonally they decided to go a different direction on that one. This is his new movie, which, spoiler alert, I loved. We are going to be going into full-fledged spoilers and fanboying a little bit over this movie, so if you haven't seen it, please check it out and then check out this review. Unless you don't care, feel free to keep watching. So to start us off, a little bit about this movie. It focuses around a character named Baby who, as a kid, was in a car crash with his parents that left a ringing or a hum in his ears. And so he listens to music to drown that out as he gets mixed up with some rough people and becomes a driver. Spencer, what did you think about Baby Driver?
I hated it. I thought it was the worst movie of the year because the title is extremely misleading. I was sitting in the theater waiting for a baby to drive, but at no point in this movie does a baby drive. So worst movie of the year, 0 stars.
Over.
No, obviously Edgar Wright is one of my favorite filmmakers. He has crafted some of the most interesting, like on a visual level, but particularly the thing that I love so much about Edgar Wright and wish more filmmakers would kind of like do is his energy with editing. His editing in all of his movies is flipping phenomenal. And you brought up Ant-Man, so real quickly I want to go on a tiny little rant. I'll try to keep it real short, 15 seconds. The fact that we will never see Edgar Wright's Ant-Man breaks my heart every single time I hear it, and it is an absolute travesty and makes me mad at Marvel every time I hear it. That's all I'm going to say about it. This movie, Baby Driver, is a complete home run, in my opinion. Complete home run. It is an absolute blast from beginning to end. I love, love, love this movie. Okay. My favorite movie of the 90s, and maybe I'd have to think about that a little bit more, look at a list of every movie to come out in the 90s that I've seen, but I'm going to say right now, my favorite movie from the 90s is True Romance. And the reason why is because True Romance is a movie about two characters who are kind of a little bit eccentric. They're kind of like not necessarily the like smartest people or the most kind of like, you know, talented people, but they're two people who have a connection and get caught up in this crazy story, and their like romance is so pure and like cute and innocent, despite the fact that the movie's filled with crime and just a ton of crazy stuff happens. Baby Driver is essentially True Romance in the 21st century, directed by Edgar Wright, and that is so awesome for me to say. I was a little bit nervous about this movie. I shouldn't have been because it's Edgar Wright, but because of, I think his name is Ansel Elgort. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He, I mean, I saw the cancer movie, The Fault in Our Stars. Yeah, and I like The Fault in Our Stars, but I feel like his performance, the script kind of tried too hard with him. So he kind of just talked really philosophically, and I thought it kind of felt clumsy to me. This movie totally sold me on this kid. He is awesome. He's absolutely brilliant in every single scene in this movie. Once again, the editing in this movie is freaking fantastic. This movie's basically a musical that has awesome driving scenes. Like there are moments where the gunshots are synchronized with like the music, and it is so cool. There's a scene of an arms deal gone wrong that is better than the entire movie of Free Fire, if you ask me. That sequence was incredible. I'll give it to you and come back to some of my other positives, but I freaking love this movie.
I'm glad you passed it over because I have some thoughts and then we'll go back and forth. But off of your thoughts, Ansel, you're right. I mean, I wasn't expecting too much out of him because everything that I've seen him in has been less than good. I mean, the Divergent movies are shit. So like that is not saying anything. And then besides that, he was in Paper Towns and Fault in Our Stars, which were both all right, but didn't do anything really for me. But even his character in this, I think he was a very solid standout of the whole movie. I mean, nothing is ever going to outshine Edgar Wright. I mean, there's no way you can watch this and not think of him. So there is that, but he really did something else with this character. And I was looking at some of the reviews afterwards on Rotten Tomatoes, and there's a few people that called him out and said that he was the downside. And it just kind of makes me think that those were the guys that wanted to give it a negative review for clickbait, because I honestly, like, the last time I said this was La La Land. I objectively don't know how someone can watch this and not be entertained. It keeps your attention through the whole movie. And I think you're right. It's Edgar Wright, his style and his editing in particular. There's a whole every frame painting just on his editing, which is so phenomenal. I loved the soundtrack. This soundtrack, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack right here. And then we've got Guardians of the Galaxy 2 soundtrack right here. And then we've got Baby Driver. Like, this is, I'm buying the soundtrack as soon as we're done filming this. And then tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'm going to go see this movie again because it's just such a fun time at the theater. And it's like 2 hours, I think, but it doesn't feel like more than an hour. Do you want to talk about some more highlights that you had?
Yeah, you brought up the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so good. You're right. I probably like a little more than the Guardians of the Galaxy just because of the way that the thing that's so great about this and Guardians of the Galaxy actually is the music actually means something and almost plays a part in this movie and in Guardians of the Galaxy. But here, the way that they use it with the editing is just so clever and smart, and the way that particularly Baby, what he uses the music for is just really smart, the way they enter that in. I think the thing that surprised me the most about this movie was how tense it got in the third act. When we got to the third act, there were sequences where I was literally on the edge of my seat. And this isn't as funny as Edgar Wright's other things, but I think that it's as smart as his other movies. And there are still moments where I was cracking up laughing in this movie. There were some really clever bits. Jamie Foxx was great in this movie. John Hamm was great in this movie. I think Lily James is her name. She was great in this movie. It's so good, guys. You have to see this movie. If you have not already seen it, please, please, please go support this movie so we can get more original cinema like this.
I feel like a lot of times I'll sit back and I'll talk about how great the cast is in a movie, but there usually is someone that you can pick out that wasn't as strong as everyone else. But I really feel like everyone in this movie elevated each other. And they all gelled so well, and the characters were very well executed. I did love that. I think besides the editing and the soundtrack, my favorite thing about this was just how funny Edgar Wright is. And it's not like he's trying. Well, I mean, obviously he's trying, but he doesn't try too hard. It's so just natural, everything that happens. There were a few lines in particular that I just laughed out loud. I couldn't even help it. And I saw it Thursday, sold out. Every single seat, completely sold out. It was packed. Everyone was laughing along with each other. I think one of my favorite moments for sure was towards the beginning where he just starts remixing the quotes. The very first time you see that, I died. That was so good. And that's the kind of comedy that just worked for me, that it's so now, but it felt like a throwback to 90s movies, to 80s movies, just in its simplicity and just, well, you know, like the crime, but a love story. It worked so well, everything. And that, like I've been saying this whole time, that is such a hats off to Edgar Wright for being able to pull off the different tones and the comedy and the beats and everything. I would love to just watch the behind the scenes of this and see how this came to be.
Yeah. So with that being said, actually, I'm really glad you brought that aspect of it up. Do you want to move into spoilers, talk about a couple spoilers in this movie?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So that scene where they go and raid his house and get the tapes,
Ooh.
I think that was a great, they set that up so brilliantly because it felt very natural at the beginning. And that's one thing I've always loved about Edgar Wright, is he sets things up in his movies that he later pays off. All of his movies do that, and it is so brilliant the way he does it. In this movie, there were a couple of setups. Knowing that the girl works at the diner when they pass the diner, and then the tapes, and then the Kevin Spacey saying that he never has a crew work together. There are so many great things like that in this movie that are so smart, so great. Do you have a favorite action sequence in this movie?
Ooh, I think my favorite one was the gun scene that you were talking about. Though there's a clip in the trailer from the first chase sequence when he's driving, where he flips the car around and he like weaves in between and like drifts. That was amazing. And then the end sequence really impressed me. It wasn't really anything extraordinary, just when he was running, I don't know. I mean, it's the direction, like the way that was executed. It was just literally him running and doing a little bit of parkour, but it just worked so well that something that mundane looked so great. It really impressed me.
And I really love in movies, like, I mean, maybe it's kind of a cliche thing, but I am somebody who's a total sucker for the whole criminal with a heart of gold. I want to get out after this one last job. And that's basically what this whole movie is about. And I really, really totally fell head over heels for the romance in this movie. There was this great shot in a laundromat of the glass, and we see the reflection of the two characters from. And it's great that we have kind of like true romance, like I was talking about, a romance that's like so innocent and pure in this movie, surrounded by like this world of crime. And I loved how Kevin Spacey's character recognized that and like allowed them, he gave them, like, he literally gave his life up to try to protect the innocence of that romance. And it was, I honestly can say I did not expect that one single bit.
Definitely. And I think it has so much impact because, like you said, the plantings and the payoffs. I mean, Edgar Wright, we studied Shaun of the Dead in film school. Like we watched it, we analyzed it, we worked it because he's so good at planting payoff, repetition. He'll show you something, he'll show you something again, and then he'll change it, and he'll pay it off but twist it, and it makes it comedic and it makes it meaningful. That several times throughout this you see the plantings of the relationships and how that is such a good ideal, but then you don't really see much of that besides the relationship between John Hamm and his character, in contrast to Baby's relationship. And it just, at the ending, when it pays off that big, it just made me grin. I was like, oh, I didn't see it coming. That wasn't what I was expecting, but it was just as satisfying as what I was hoping for. So overall, everything paid off for me in this movie. I really have been thinking of some negatives that I could give it. Off the top of my head, after thinking for the last day, I can't come up with any downsides to this movie. Do you have any negatives?
Oh man. See, that's the thing, is I've been trying real hard to come up with like something just like something to say that was negative about this movie, I guess one tiny little nitpick for me would be I wish we could have gotten, because that opening driving sequence was so cool, I wish we could have gotten just, you know, the ending sequence be a big driving sequence. But I'm not going to call that a negative, because I think that the emotional weight behind what was happening totally paid off for me. And there was enough in the car. The part where he's reversing up the parking garage was so cool. So yeah, guys, what are you going to score this?
Okay. I am going to give it a 9.75, almost perfect. It is just a fantastic film. And one last positive that I do want to specifically mention is it starts off with an action sequence, which really gets you hooked and kind of prepares you for what you're about to experience. But then it goes into the opening credits, and during the opening credits, it's just like a oneer where it follows him, and it's so methodical, and it's very well timed and paced, and it's deliberate, and it's an unbroken shot, which in comparison to how this ends is just so brilliantly done, and is such a well thought out movie of the ending with the action sequence and the fast editing and the running and everything. It's so brilliant, hands down. Please go see this in the theater. If you don't have a chance, this will be in the theaters for a while, but if you don't have a chance, definitely check it, buy it on Blu-ray. This is one you're gonna want to watch.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 9.75 as well. Just like the only reason I'm not giving it that perfect 10 is, like I said, the whole thing about I just wish there could have been just one more like crazy great car chase sequence. There was enough, but yeah, it just wasn't quite a 10 for me. But yeah, like you said, that oneer shot at the beginning just totally shows you how great Edgar Wright is, because he can take a super mundane thing like going and picking up 4 coffees and make it just brilliant. And it's a lot. It reminds me of that shot in Shaun of the Dead where he's walking down the street that they set up for later when the zombie apocalypse happens. He's just bumbling through that. You know, sometime we should review Shaun of the Dead, because I really would like to explore.
That's the movie that every single time I'm sick, I don't know why that movie, but every single time I'm sick and I'm just laying helpless in bed, I'm like, I have to watch Shaun of the Dead.
Maybe it's because you think you're about to contract the zombie virus. Who knows? Yeah, so guys, please, I am begging you, please go check out Baby Driver. Please go check this movie out, support it. Edgar Wright is great. He's one of my favorite filmmakers working today. This further cemented him as one of those people who I will go support his work whenever it comes out. Anyways, this has been a pretty long episode, but you can always follow me on Twitter @SpinnyHind. Ryan, where can they find you?
Follow me on Twitter @Riot_Gordon. And thank you. Make sure to watch our Okja review, which is coming out this weekend as well. It's a Netflix original, another independent movie that really should be checked out. Different tone for sure of this one, but definitely an important one that you should definitely watch both of these movies instead of going to see Transformers or Book of Henry this weekend. Stay clear of those. Check out our review next week. Off the top of my head, I don't know what's coming out next week, but
I do. I just looked it up.
Oh, Spider-Man.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. So Spider-Man. We're watching a Spider-Man movie next week, and Steven is going to be guesting as a guest reviewer. He says Spider-Man's his favorite superhero. He requested specifically to review Spider-Man with us. So stay tuned, guys, because this one is one that I'm somewhat excited for. It's whatever. I'm kind of burnt out on Spider-Man, but
well, yeah, make sure to definitely check it out then if Steven will be here, because bless his soul, he sat through the whole Transformers movie to give us a review, and the audio didn't work. It was a heaven sent. The audio didn't work, so we never got a review out for Transformers, but he did. He braved through it, that champion.
That's not heaven sent, that's hell sent, because that means he sat through a Transformers movie for literally nothing. Yeah.
Oh man. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. We made it to 100 subscribers, which is thanks to you. So keep supporting us, and we'll keep trying to keep this content coming. So until next time, bye.